Plutosphere.
Connecting decentralized technologies to the global economy.
We're bringing you the latest commanders in the crypto space.
This week, we are welcoming our guest, Jonathan de Carteret, Chief Exec of Bumper.
We're super excited to have you on the Plutosphere, Jonathan. So just to give a quick overview of Bumper, Bumper protects the value of your crypto using radically innovative DeFi protocol. So when you sort of protect the price, you set the price that you want to protect if the market crashes, and then your asset won't then fall beneath that. But then on the flip side, equally, if the market rises, your asset rises as well. Can you just, aside from that, can you just give us a quick overview of Bumper?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you so much for kind of having me on. And gosh, yeah, the way we kind of explained this when we were pitching this to kind of VC was that, first of all, you start off thinking volatility is a thing, right? And it's a massive thing in crypto. So when you consider the range of tools that you can use to, kind of hedge that volatility, it's really alarming that there's such a poverty of instruments out there, right? You've got the good old stop loss, which is like this kind of circuit breaker that just kind of cuts you out of the game and trades you out. And then you might miss out on any kind of subsequent upswing. So that's not great. The other option is the good old options desk, which has been around since 1973. So it's like a 50-year-old technology, which is still kind of rattling on there. And I don't know if you've ever used an options desk, right? But they're really clunky, they're expensive, they're complex, they've got fixed expiry windows. They're just not user-friendly in any fashion. And so we started to kind of really take a kind of objective look at all this innovation that's happening in DeFi and to think about, okay, can that solve the volatility problem in a kind of more novel and efficient way, right? And the way Bumper approaches that problem in a really simple way is imagine you own Bitcoin, right? And you saw it race up to the all-time high of $63,000, right? And you're kind of cheering it on. And at that point, let's say your investment thesis was like, okay, I think that's a bit toppy. I think it's probably going to trace down. So you would use Bumper to protect your Bitcoin floor at $60,000. So if the price does go down, then as it passes through $60,000, you're traded out of Bitcoin and into a stable coin. So that means if the price continues to go down, that's great, you've got no exposure. But then the inverse is so relevant. So if the price pops back up above 60,000, then it trades you back into Bitcoin again. And that's the elegance and beauty, I suppose, of the concept of Bumper. The only problem, and I'll finish off with this, is that when we modeled that, right, and we modeled it using kind of hourly, minute, second, and tick data, is it just doesn't work, right? Because if your Bitcoin is oscillating along the $60,000 floor and you're trading in and out a few hundred times a minute, and each time you trade, you've got slippage costs, you've got transaction costs, you've got gas fees, you just get wiped out.
I was just about to mention gas fees. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So what we realized was actually we're not trying to solve for volatility. What we need to solve for is slippage. And at the heart of the Bumper protocol is a near zero slippage engine. And so that's what enables us to do that really elegant modeling.
Fantastic. So in terms of gas fees and things like that, so you're not having this every time it goes below your set price, you're not having it transfer into a stable coin because you don't want that slippage constantly giving you the fees. What is it that you're doing instead? Maybe what you're doing it maybe once a day, you transfer it into a stable coin, and then I don't know, halfway through the day that you'll transfer it back into your Bitcoin, or how does it work so you don't keep having that up and down motion?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. So we looked at all those types of things when we were in the design and scoping phase, right? But there are obviously problems with that kind of approach as well, right? Because if the market drops rapidly and you're only swapping, once a day, then you might just be, subject to massive volatility drops. So the solution, as it turns out, is you have to kind of imagine that in the engine of Bumper are two pools that we're balancing. One is the asset that everyone's trying to protect. So when I release, we're releasing with protecting ETH. Okay, and then the other pool that we're balancing is a stable coin.
Okay.
And if you are the person who is taking protection and putting ETH in, you pay a daily premium. You pay a charge for that protection. And if you are someone who's depositing USDC, you're a maker of protection, and you receive that premium as your yield, basically. So the solution, it turns out, is that what we do is we look at the aggregate So we've got a big pool of ETH, of lots of people who are protecting their ETH, all at different floors, have come in at different times. And you've got hundreds, thousands of those.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got lots of people depositing the USDC. And what the protocol's doing is it's constantly monitoring about 7 different ratios to make sure it keeps those two in balance. And by doing it on the aggregate, we're not being reactive. We're not trading in and out constantly. We're just doing little rebalancing trades on the aggregate value, which means that it becomes really efficient. And the more people that use it, it becomes more robust and even more efficient.
Okay, so I think that probably moves us nicely onto the next question, which would be, is it fully functional? Is the token fully functional on the website? What is there that you're waiting now to implement that hasn't already begun with Bumper?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, being really honest, is it's a really complex protocol to build. Right,
which we love.
So which you know, there are reams of bonded curves, algorithms, equations that we had to figure out, and then once you've got that all on kind of paper, the next stage that we did is something called agent-based modeling. So that's imagine like you kind of build your own version of the Matrix, and you have these actors who act in a commercially, you know, sensible way, and you have millions of those. And then we see how Bumper would work in that universe. And so what we found is that Bumper categorically works. It is just fiercely, ludicrously efficient at kind of offering protection and mitigating volatility. And where we're at the moment is, and I think this is a kind of testament, right? Because a lot of protocols have a really good white paper and they have a really great idea. Where they then fail is on the execution, right? You know, because you need really good Solidity developers, really good UX designers, really good front-end developers, really great solution architects. And we have all those. And so what we've managed to do is we've built out one half of the protocol, the half that allows people to deposit USDC and the ratios that kind of govern that, and the bump tokens that they get for that. And what we're embarking on at the moment is the other half. And we expect that to be done in the next kind of 3 to 4 months. So, you know, as I say, we've got all the modeling done, and the solution architecture has been done. So it's just a matter of kind of handing that blueprint over to our coders now to start to kind of build those modules. And in terms of the actual, you kind of mentioned how the token works within the protocol. So, you know, consider us very kind of careful and considerate designers of DeFi protocols and tokenomics. And so the token is a multi-utilitarian purpose, right? So specifically, you can elect to receive your yield as a maker in bump tokens. All actors need to deposit bump in order just to interact with the protocol and use it. Takers and makers will be rewarded with bump tokens on a daily distribution to kind of incentivize them and bootstrap those network effects. If you're a bump hodler, then you can stake bump into the protocol to increase its robustness. And then, of course, finally, and probably most importantly, the bump token is the governance token. So we've done that because what we want to do is just overlay and concatenate as much utility and value on that token so that the token price goes up. Because I think that's the key thing we realized with Bumper, right? Is we're the first ones to crack this. And we'll be the first ones to go to market because we're way ahead of anyone else in this space at the moment, right? And it's like trying to build a walled garden, right? What we realized is that if we can get the TVL up to a high amount and we can get the token price up to a high amount, then by design, Bumper becomes more efficient and more robust. And it just means that competitors can't then touch us.
That's so clever. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's so nice to just listen to the way that you created it. We love Bumper. Pluto has obviously got a lot of assets that we look after, and Bumper's just really a one-stop solution. And nobody's heard of it. You know, I don't know, other than from our side with marketing and things like that. It's really, really, when I explain it to people, even our accountant, when I explained it to him for the first time, he was like, "Are you joking? Why have we not got this on every token that we possibly, that we're staking at the moment, that we're looking after currently?" It's just madness to think that it's not in our environment already. So we congratulate you and thank you for bringing Bumper to the world and the crypto space, definitely.
Well, we kind of echo that. I think, from our side, we don't want to be too grandiose about it, but we think that Bumper is a really strong candidate to be a top 3 DeFi protocol, right?
Yeah.
Because, volatility is that inherent problem. And when you think of all the different verticals that need protection, whether it's retail or people taking out CDP loans, or big institutions that are holding crypto that have a fiduciary duty to take a hedge, or whether it's other DeFi protocols that want to plug in and have that composable kind of hedge, or whether it's institutions like Tesla that are holding crypto, like yourselves, that need to or want to kind of take some protection, or what the future holds, right? Because when you think about it, what Bumper could do is take a Tesla stock, tokenize it, and then bumper it so that you're then bumpering traditional equities and stocks. So it's got a phenomenal go-to-market opportunity.
For the future of DeFi, aside from that, what do you see?
That's my pet question. That's really interesting. Well, the thesis that I'm starting to kind of coalesce around, right, is that you've got this ecosystem in DeFi, which is really low latency, really high frequency. And what that results in is ultra rapid liquidity that can flow around, right? And I suppose Bumper is a really good example of that, in that if you imagine that we're protecting ETH and the price of ETH falls through the floor, right, then our premiums will rise up. And because those premiums are rising up, that means the premiums we pay to USDC depositors shoots up as well. So that means all of a sudden, lots of protocols that are looking for, say, a yield of over 10%, and then Bumper flicks over that 10%, that tap is then opened and all that money then flows into the protocol, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm starting to kind of think about with DeFi, right, is that because it's got that kind of really high energy of momentum of money running around in it, which is programmable and kind of smart money, then we kind of start to give rise to structured products and financial instruments that you just can't conceive of in the traditional finance world.
Yeah.
And I think we're just entering into this new financial epoch in DeFi, where the world of finance is going to be revolutionized because the fundamental plumbing is now electronic. And that is just, the next 5 years is just going to be a maelstrom of innovation.
And I think following on from that, like there's so many projects out there at the moment that, you just don't need it. It's an excuse for people to get themselves in the space. And we're seeing so many projects enter at the moment that are like, they just have no utility. They have no use case. They have no need to be in the system other than the fact that they want to turn something DeFi, But Bumper's use case is huge. We've seen it adopted across so many different platforms already, not only just with Pluto as well. But so the Poly Network hack yesterday, I'm sure you have read all about it. What's your opinion on that? How are you thinking, right, we need to make sure we're protected in the best way possible, keeping our clients safe from anything potentially harming their assets as well within your security system, I guess?
Gosh, yeah, it's something we think about every day, to be honest. So when you kind of sit back, look at that problem, you kind of divide it into two, right? One is a kind of crypto economic flaw in the protocol. So it's where it can be gained, right? By someone who's probably got deep pockets to kind of drain out liquidity. Right. Or there's a fundamental attack vector left in the code that allows somebody to basically extrapolate those funds and kind of run off with them. So, like I said at the beginning, Bumper's a really complex protocol. So what that means is that, we potentially need to be very, very careful that there's neither of those exploits in the design or the code. So it really comes down to very careful planning. It comes down to employing the very best smart audit contractors out there to evaluate the code. And I can tell you from someone who's on this side of the development, right, there's a lot of out there that will just do this kind of rubber stamping, they'll run it through a couple of computer programs to do a bit of fuzzy logic, and then they'll kind of give you a stamp of approval. Our policy is, we're spending a big budget on smart contract audits with what we consider the top 3 tiers. And we're not just using one, we'll be using 3. And then we're going to have, and then we're going to have auditors on a constant rotation as the protocol goes live. And this
just
is
to
something
make sure that making sure that you're just looking at the whole thing instead of missing anything potentially. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I'll tell you where it came from. Actually, we were talking to the guys over at Arve, and they do this, right? So they I think it's every 6 to 8 weeks, there's an auditor just kind of trying to kind of understand any flaws. And the reason is, I never really thought about this, but it's because hackers come up with new ways to kind of hack your system. So if you're not kind of constantly guarding against that, you're going to be vulnerable.
Yeah, no, totally. We've seen that so many times where people have been hacked, and it is because they've just kept the same thing and they haven't thought, right, I need to upgrade now. We've got a good project, we'll leave it at that. But you're totally right. You need to constantly make those changes. It's like going to your sort of safe and keeping the same code for the last 50 years. Someone will guess it. Someone will see you put that digit in.
Remember it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you need to keep changing the code.
Yeah, you definitely can't be resting on your laurels. Definitely not. And that is something that you definitely aren't doing either, Jonathan. You're amazing. So you've been, what were you, founder of one of the UK's 60th fastest growing companies. Tell us a bit about your journey into crypto. I mean, as far from research, it sort of looks like you started in 2015, but who knows, it was probably before. Can you tell us a little bit about
I can remember where I was actually. So I was 2012 and I was at a friend's place up in the Cotswolds in the UK, in it's like idyllic kind of country pub.
Very crypto central.
Crypto Valley, I think they call the Cotswolds.
And there was this really cool girl that I used to kind of hang around with then, called Holly Williams, and she just read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper a few weeks before. And so I spent the whole of my New Year's Eve in this enthralled conversation in the corner of this pub.
How did you get her hands on that?
Around it. She was just someone who was just always on the cutting edge of everything, whether it was kind of techno or music or fashion. She was just one of those people that was always living on the edge. And so I think, like most people, once the penny drops with Bitcoin fully, right, then you start to kind of you keep hearing about it. You keep hearing about different protocols that are happening, Ethereum coming on board, right, and then I think you just start to then fall down that rabbit hole, and I certainly went down that hard. But I think the thing I'm probably quite personally proud of, right, is we had a pre-existing crypto business called Index, and we saw DeFi happening. And me and my business partner took the decision to speak to our stakeholders and say, we think we should close this down. We think we should restart in DeFi because that's the future of money. And this was 2 years ago when DeFi, no one had heard of it, right? So it was a big move by us, and it was a big support by our shareholders that backed us wholeheartedly in it. And I'm so glad we did that, because now we're just in this world of like crazy innovation with some of the smartest people I'm working with, that I've ever known.
So are you still working with Index?
No, we wound it down. We wound that business down, and then kind of moved across into Bumper. And so all our shareholders have done very well.
Okay.
Amazing. So am I right in thinking that Bumper was partially built or formed with Index? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's the kind of the key team from Index basically moved across and started this different project, basically, and kind of essentially pivoted ourselves in there. And then we partnered with the key architect of a protocol called Haven, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Haven was really ahead of its time. It was in 2017, and it was an algorithmic stablecoin protocol. And Haven then transformed independently into synthetics. And so, which is obviously one of the most successful and largest DeFi protocols, and actually one of the most beautiful, complex, high art. It's just wonderful how that works. But the key architect of Haven jumped across to be our CTO, and really, that was the key building block, I think, for us, of like
CTO from Haven. Fantastic. Boom. Wow. Boom. We've got you on board. That's wonderful. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic sort of chatting with you. What can we expect next? I know you've already gone live. People can go on your web link, which we're going to put at the end of the video, so they can sort of get involved and start staking, start getting their tokens sort of insured. That's how I view it anyway. That's my easiest way of explaining it. But what's next?
Well, right now, what people could do is they can deposit USDC into the protocol, and they also have the option to buy the bump token at private sale, right? So we were really careful to limit the amount that we sold to institutions. And I think you guys were obviously part of that very kind of small caveat. And we took in, I think it was about $11.3 million worth of funding in 3 weeks. We declined 32 because Bumper will live and die by users kind of using
generating its own,
right? Yeah, exactly. So that's why now people can go in and buy the bump token at basically a kind of private sale price.
How long's private sale going on for?
Goes up to mid-October, October the 14th.
Oh, okay. That's quite good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the full protocol will go live, in Q4 this year. So kind of whether that's kind of, November, December time. So, and that's when it will become fully functional and people can actually start protecting and kind of use that kind of that hedging instrument. And then very quickly off the back of that, will be coming release 2. So we're already kind of planning out that. So release 2 is expanding out from just ETH you can protect to wrapped Bitcoin.
I wondered whether it would be sort of expanding from just ETH.
Yes, to ETH, to like Bitcoin, to like the large ERC20 tokens on the taker side. And then on the maker side, not just USDC, but USDT, DAI, so kind of a multi-denominated coin there. Then moving across the kind of cross-chain into connectivity, so into Binance Smart Chain and Polkadot and Cosmos and Polygon. And then I think after that, what we're doing right now is we're putting in the regulatory permissions so that we can go after traditional finance. So that's where.
Wow.
Yeah,
so is Tesla what you're aiming at?
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't
those companies.
That wasn't just you saying it. This is what we're doing next. Tesla is going to be partnered with Bumper. That is going to be fantastic. Yeah. Can't wait to see Elon's reaction to that.
Exactly.
He's gonna love it. It's going to do everyone some benefits.
That's
exactly.
Hodl.
Wow. So are you thinking in the future, are you going to be 50-50 traditional crypto or predominantly crypto?
That's a really good question, isn't it? I think, I suspect in the short term, from all the analyst reports that I read, there is so much institutional money that's not already moved in, but is going to move in, right? They're all positioning themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think over the next 2-3 years, especially as kind of ETFs come online, right, which is only a matter of time before they get greenlit by the SEC, then you're going to kind of have, trillions of dollars that come into crypto. So I imagine we'll kind of, hopefully scoop up a lot of that. But then as I say, and I think you guys are with us on this, that the long-term future of finance, it's DeFi, isn't it? That's where the only game in town.
Just wait for the mass adoption and they'll come to you. Start with Tesla and the rest will come flocking.
Yeah, exactly.
Insane. I'm really excited for that.
So thanks so much, Pluto Nauts, for watching. Don't forget to join us back here where we'll be bringing you more from the leading commanders in the crypto space.
Give us a like and give us a share and subscribe.